Hey guys, Yummy here again, and today I wanted to talk about the Call of Duty World War II closed beta. I had a chance to play it a bit on Xbox One over the weekend. Unfortunately, I didn't get real gameplay of it because I don't actually have any means of recording gameplay on console because I barely ever play it. But I thought I'd give my thoughts on the beta, considering that I used to play Call of Duty a lot, like from Call of Duty 2 onto Black Ops 1. And that was about the time that I switched over to the Battlefield franchise. And then more recently, I've pretty much just been playing Counter-Strike. So this will be like, I hope, an interesting take from a non-Call of Duty player. I think mostly in this video I'll be discussing gripes I have with it because, there's a lot of well-established consistency in the multiplayer of the Call of Duty games that you don't really have to go into. So really it's more of the gripes that stand out more than anything. So that's mostly what I'm going to be talking about. So the first thing I wanted to mention, that was something that was almost immediately prevalent to me, was the inconsistent weapon damage in the game. I'm not sure exactly how they do the damage model in this Call of Duty, or in Call of Duty in general, anymore. I suspect that there's, a normal drop-off system, especially for like the SMGs over range, the damage drops off. But within close range, I was noticing some serious inconsistency in the damage, especially when I was using the M1941 Johnson. Sometimes I was killing guys immediately, and it was like a 2-shot kill. And then at other times, I would have to do like half the clip, like 8 or 9 shots to be able to kill someone with it. And it was really frustrating. The weapon that showed probably the most consistent damage was probably the M1 Garand. It was consistently either a 2 or a 3-shot kill, depending on if you get a headshot or not, or if you land the shots in the chest instead of the legs. But for the automatic weapons in the game, I'm not sure if this is something that they need to fix, or if it was just, something that I perceived by myself and nobody else really has a problem with it. Also, with considering the weapons, I think there is an overemphasis of SMGs in this game, much like in Battlefield 1, how there was like an overemphasis of automatic weapons that just kind of ruins the immersion. In World War II, it's not that bad. It's not about really ruining the immersion for me in World War II. It's about, well, the rapid fire perk for the SMGs is possibly overpowered. This is what pretty much everyone uses. It's like the Vesper or whatever those guns were in Black Ops 3 that pretty much just everyone used. Just run around the map as fast as you can and spray people with very little skill, because you're going to kill people in like one frame with rapid fire, especially with the Type 100 SMG with rapid fire. It has an extremely high fire rate. And you'll just melt people instantaneously, and it really doesn't make you want to use any other gun in the game, or any other class of guns in the game. And the use of these guns gives rise to possibly the biggest, most glaring problem I had that was really frustrating the whole time I was playing the game, and that was just the hit registration in the game seems to be very dated. I'm fairly certain they haven't upgraded the net code. The hit registration hasn't been improved in like 10 years. There was a time when people used to compare Battlefield to Call of Duty and talk about how much better Call of Duty's hit reg was than Battlefield. And yeah, Battlefield 4's was bad for a period of time, but I can honestly say in this beta, I was killed around corners more times than I ever was in Battlefield, and watching the kill cam for those kills, I was on their screen as well already around the corner before the last hit markers counted as killing me. So I don't think they're gonna even bother trying to fix this problem. It's just something that's probably gonna be around forever, and I mean, as Call of Duty slowly is it's slowly dying, very, very slowly. It's very evident that that's something that they could fix that might help the franchise a bit. Now I wanted to talk about the map design in this game. In this beta, pretty much all the maps are kind of small. The biggest map is the biggest map in general size is probably Gibraltar, and I think it has the longest ranges. It's the most viable for sniping. Ardennes Forest is also pretty good for sniping. But the main gripe that I have with the map design in this one that I think there's been a problem in Call of Duty ever since like Black Ops 2. I don't know. I didn't play Black Ops 2 very much, but it was once you started getting into the later Call of Duties, this started to become more and more of a problem. Something that the exosuits also exploited was I think that there's too many flanking routes on the maps, and you might be thinking, how is this possibly a bad thing? But it's just like, you used to get shot in the back. In the past few CODs, you would get shot in the back constantly because people with exosuits flying around behind you and such. But in this one, since there are no exosuits, the increased number of flanking routes, I think there's more in this game than there has been in previous Call of Duties. There is no position that you can hold for more than like 5 seconds. You're going to get shot in the back constantly, and you're going to get pissed off, at least in Team Deathmatch. If you're playing something like war mode or an objective-based game mode, you have more semblance of battle lines. But whenever you have a game that's random like Team Deathmatch, it is constant. You are constantly being killed in the back, just unrelentlessly. And it's also not helping that I think this game, at least in the beta, has probably the worst spawns in the entire franchise. I mean, I've been killed more spawning like immediately after spawning in this one, and I think in any other COD game that I've played. It's more like it doesn't really think about where your teammates are whenever it's trying to spawn you. It's more like Counter-Strike Team Deathmatch spawning, where it's just completely random. Because I try to use the minimap when I'm playing. I try to determine where my teammates are to help me determine where the enemies will spawn or where they are currently. So I try to put those together to find the enemies and kill them. But I was finding enemies directly when I spawned, even though I'm surrounded by teammates. It doesn't matter how many teammates I had on a certain point of the map, and we were still getting like enemies spawning where we were and such. I've never actually seen it this bad before, and it was just constantly, beating you over the head with this, poor spawn system where you're spawning. Occasionally I would get a good spawn behind enemies and I would kill them, but usually I would spawn on the enemy's side, and then, one of them finds me and like shoots me in the back. So that was one of the major problems that I found in this beta. Now, at this point, I'm not sure if this is a positive or a negative, but definitely the sniping in this game is probably the easiest in the entire franchise. I mean, I've tried sniping in, COD 2, COD 3, Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 3, and this is probably the easiest sniping I've seen. It's more like akin to opping and Counter-Strike, where there's very little sway in the scopes, especially if you use the 4x. The scopes are very precise. It's just overall a lot easier to do it than I think normally. I'm not sure if this is good or bad, but honestly, I've not seen... There weren't that many snipers when I was playing the beta. Mostly it was just guys sprinting around with super fast SMGs, spraying everyone down in less than a frame. So I'm not sure if this is going to mean more snipers than usual in a COD game, which, it's a lot of snipers because there's a lot of people like quick scoping and shit. So that will remain to be seen whenever the full game comes out. A more glaring issue was I actually had a hacker in one of the matches that I played, which is crazy. I don't think I've ever had a hacker in Call of Duty on console over the years. And I mean, of course I heard, how hard it is to hack on console because, it's just hard to get that software on there or whatever, whatever excuses they make about it. But this guy was definitely hacking. He had a name that was like all zeros. He had a Type 100 with rapid fire and he was actually killing people with it faster than you already kill people with it. He was like 2-tapping people. So in the kill feed the entire game, he's just getting like 4 or 5 kills at a time. He's just taking up the entire screen. I think at the end of the match, he was like 42-2 or something. He was just like completely raping people the entire match. And it was really frustrating. So I'm not sure if there was a complete absence of anti-cheat. Considering that I've never come across a hacker in Call of Duty before, even though I mean I haven't played it very often over the past 5 years, 6 years, so I don't have much experience with it. But I would guess that since it's a console game and since it's Call of Duty, that they just don't really care about it as much. I could be completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure that nothing's going to happen to that guy, even though I reported him for cheating. He's probably just going to continue doing it. Now, this gripe I wanted to save until towards the end of the video because I don't want it to seem like it's like a super big deal for me. It's what's caused all of the controversy on the internet, and it's the ability to play as an ethnic not only an ethnic character, but an ethnic female character in a World War II setting, even as the Germans. So as a Wehrmacht soldier, you'll be walking around as a black woman in a Wehrmacht uniform. And the problem with it isn't so much of the race, but as how it's viewed when you're talking about, you know, how they were talking about respecting the veterans when they were creating this game. And it doesn't really seem like you're doing that whenever you allow that kind of character selection, because, you know, that never happened. It was, historically speaking, as I'm a history major in college, so historical accuracy is very important to me. And I know this is Call of Duty, so you're not looking for it to be really realistic, but there's a difference between realism and immersion, and honestly seeing them running around, you know, seeing black female Wehrmacht soldiers running around, it really breaks any kind of immersion, and it's just, you know, it's kind of irritating as someone who appreciates historical authenticity. Also, I find it moderately insulting to veterans who fought in the war, because it was, you know, completely inaccurate. And, you know, I have respect for the soldiers of both sides of the war, considering most Wehrmacht soldiers were conscripts and not Nazis. The Nazis were in the SS. And while there were Wehrmacht soldiers that were Nazis, most of them were conscripted, and therefore were just, you know, normal soldiers like American soldiers, British soldiers. And they deserve a certain degree of respect. And they're not really getting that when you allow something like that. That's just my opinion. You might have a different opinion on the matter, but I'm not very angry about it. I'm not going to go on massive rants about being able to do this or start using racial slurs or something like a lot of people have been doing talking about this subject. It's not that big of a deal for me because I know that complaining about it's not going to do jack shit. So in the end, this game is another Call of Duty game. There's definitely that iconic feel of the post Modern Warfare 1 Call of Duty, you know, multiplayer feel. And if you're a fan of that, you're definitely going to enjoy this game as well. You know, super fast time to kill. Although it's not as fast for most weapons, it's not as fast as it was in previous games like Advanced Warfare. I didn't play Infinite Warfare multiplayer, so I'm not sure how it was in that. But it definitely seems slower for most weapons unless you use like an SMG with rapid fire. But for me, I'm not impressed by it. I haven't been a big fan of the modern Call of Duty pace in the multiplayer. So for the most part, I'm just hoping for the single player of this game. I might buy this game just for the single player. I'll wait for the reviews of it before I purchase it, of course. But I hope that it is very respectful and realistic. I want it to be visceral. I was hoping that it was before Battlefield 1 was announced, I was hoping that the next Battlefield game was World War II and they would do Normandy on the Frostbite 3 engine and it would look fantastic. But the engine for COD World War II, at least in the single-player gameplay that we've seen, it looks amazing. The multiplayer graphics are okay. They're not fantastic, but they're pretty good. Also, the sound design in this game seems to be much improved from past titles. That was always many people's gripes with the Call of Duty franchise compared to the Battlefield franchises. They seem to have downloaded most of their gun sounds from like online databases instead of actually recording real sounds. And in this one, the sounds are actually really impressive. So I'm happy about that, and I'm hoping for the single player. So I'm still looking forward to this game. I'm looking forward to what they bring to the table in terms of the single player. Multiplayer, not so much, but that's just my opinion. So this has just been impressions of Call of Duty multiplayer, World War II multiplayer from a non-Call of Duty player. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and until next time, this is Yummy. Goodbye, and good hunting.